So for 7.5, we are going to take what we learned in 7.4 and we're going to use it. But the first process, so when you are essentially what you're trying to do is you're going to take this polynomial, you're going to graph it, and you're going to try and find all of the zeros, like where it intersects the x-axis, or it could be imaginary. You will always know that you will have a certain number of zeros based on the highest degree. So, for instance, or however many solutions. So, for instance, if you have an x to the third, that means that you're going to have 3 solutions. Or you're going to have either 3 x-intercepts. You know that you're going to have 3 answers. If you had an x to the 5th, you know you're going to have 5 answers. You're going to have 5 solutions. So, you will have however many zeros as you do the highest degree. And so what I'm going to do first, before I start, is I'm going to graph, and I'm going to see, are there any rational zeros that I can pull out so that I can use synthetic division and solve for the other ones. So when you're graphing, you're looking for x-intercepts that are either whole numbers or fractions. So you're going to look on your graph and you're going to look for x-intercepts that are either whole numbers or fractions. Because with those two things, you can use synthetic division. You can divide out a whole number, you can divide out a fraction. You can't divide out an irrational number like a square root. You can't divide out an imaginary number. You can't even see the imaginary solutions. So I'm going to take this function and I'm going to put it into my calculator. So I'm going to bring this over. So you're going to add the graph. And what is the function? X cubed minus 8x squared. Is this right? 8x squared plus 11x plus 20. And here it is. So if I want to find the x-intercepts, you can go to menu. You can either do trace, graph trace, and then just kind of scroll left and right and find it. Or you can do analyze graph and then go to the 0. Or you can also eyeball it because you can kind of see in this one it's pretty obvious. But if you're not for sure, I'm going to click lower bound below the first one. The first 0 is at -1. And then I'm going to do it again. You really only need to find one. You can solve for the other two, but you can find all of them. The second one is 4, and then the third one would be what? 5. But you can always do it again if you're not sure. 5. So -1, 4, and 5. So what I'm going to do out to the side is I'm going to write my rational numbers that I found. -1, 4, and 5. And those are my 3 solutions. So you could technically be done, but I'm going to show you kind of the process that we go through so that you can get in the habit of doing that process. So we found our rational zeros. Step 3 is to use synthetic division to depress the polynomial to a quadratic. So you want to get it down to an x squared. If it's already at an x cubed, how many times would I need to do synthetic division to get to an x squared? Just once. If I had an x to the 4th, I would have to do synthetic division twice. If I had an x to the 5th, I'd have to do synthetic division 3 times. So the only thing we know how to solve in Algebra 2 is x squared functions using factoring, quadratic formula, completing the square, something like that. So then once you get it down to a quadratic, you're either going to factor or use the quadratic formula to find the zeros. So for number 1, I'm just going to choose one of them. We can choose -1. I'm going to use synthetic division.
So you can use any of the x's?
Uh-huh. They would all work.
And each time you do it again, do you use a different x, or do you use the same x? Like
You use it, like, once you've done it once, you can't use it again.
Okay.
Bring it down. So now I am left with x squared minus 9x plus 20 equals 0. And I can factor this. So if I want to factor, it would be x minus 4, x minus 5. And those are my other 2 answers.
So that's how you check.
Yeah, so that's how you check.
You have to.
You don't have to, no. But a lot of the, especially on like a test or a quiz, I wouldn't give you all 3 whole numbers. I would just give you probably 1 whole number, and then you have to solve the other 2.
You won't know.
Okay, so whenever you graphed this, what rational zeros did you get? Meaning, like, what whole numbers did you get? You probably get 2 decimals, and then you get 2 whole numbers, but we can't use the decimals.
So 3 and 4.
So I only have 3 and 4. Because I think you get like -1.414 and 1.414, but you can't turn those into fractions, so we don't use those. So I don't want to see any decimals like that. I want to see them, we're going to end up solving for them. And you only need 2 anyway, because you can depress those to be a quadratic. So I'm going to do, so I'm going to take each one. You can do 4 and then 3, or you can do 3 and then 4. It doesn't matter, but I'll start with 3. Write out. Then do synthetic division.
The next one, 3 is the same x equals 3 on the outside?
No, so once you've used 3, now I'm going to do synthetic division again. This is where it gets really cool. You're just going to draw another box right below it and put a 4. Yeah, isn't that fancy?
For these, does your remainder always have to be 0?
Yes, your remainder should always be 0 for these.
That is cool.
So now you have 1, 0, -2, 0. And I've done synthetic division twice from x4. So when I did it once, it became an x cubed. When I did it again, it became an x squared. So this would be x squared plus 0x minus 2 equals 0. Then I want to solve. So I'm just going to move the 2 over, so x squared equals 2, square root. So x equals plus or minus square root of 2. And if you wanted to type that in your calculator just to check it, like if you type in the square root of 2, you end up getting 1.414. So that's a good way to check it. So my final answer is x equals 3, 4, plus or minus the square root of 2.
So for the first one, we would have to write -1 along with 3 and 4.
Yeah, so you should have as many answers as you do your degree. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So you get x equals 0. Do you get anything else? You get like weird decimals. Negative 4.3 and okay, so I can't use those. They can't be fractions. So I don't use those. So I'm going to use 0. I'm going to use synthetic division on 0. Do I need to put something else? I need to put a 0 at the end because there's no constant. But do not forget this 0 at the end, otherwise it's not going to work out. And you'll be sad. Because see, you'll get 3 and then you're like, what did I do? So then I am left with x squared plus 5x plus 3 equals 0. This is where I have to make a decision. Can I factor this? No. I can't. So my other option is the quadratic formula.
No.
Yay!
No, the quadratic formula is easier.
So x, I'm gonna do this over here.
I feel that you should sing a song for Claire. No.
I think Claire should sing it to us. So negative b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So negative 5 plus or minus, what is 25 minus 12? 13. Can I do anything to that? Nah.
9.
So I just leave it. There's nothing else I can simplify. That wasn't bad. If you want to check your answer to see if you get negative 4.3 and negative 0.6, then you have to
So x would equal that, and that's the answer?
put 0 where? So my final answer would be x equals 0 and then negative 5 plus or minus the square root of 13 over 2. Here's what your graph should look like. So we know that we have a 0 here at negative 2. And then we have 1 here at 1. But we need 3 of them.
0.9. Whoa, that was...
It rounds up to 1.
So
It's going to be 1, yeah.
So we would put 1.
On mine, it says 1 on mine. I don't know why.
0.9.
It says 1 on mine.
Interesting. It should say 1. I don't know, maybe some function on your calculator like the
So
decimal.
because if you see it's not directly on 1, it's a little bit to the side.
really
not.
It says 1 on mine.
Oh, so
Okay.
this is like 1.9, we can round into 2.
Okay, so with that, I have only 2, but I need 3 because it's an x to the 5th equation. When you have a function that comes to an x-intercept and then bounces off the graph, we count it twice. So it's a double root.
Whoa.
I know.
Wait, whoa.
It's a double root. So if it's a double root, that means that I'm going to...
Do like 1
No,
square.
I don't want to save it. Not 1 squared. You would do
1 twice.
1 twice.
Ah.
So I'm going to write my rational zeros.
But that's still only 3.
Right, and you only need to do 3 of them.
Wait, I thought you had...
So I have x equals negative 2. I have x equals 1. We're going to put with a multiplicity of 2, which just means double root.
So why can't you just negative 2 comma
You just
1
write it
comma
twice.
1?
You had to put multiplicity of 2.
But you're smarter when you put multiplicity of 2.
But can you
But that's so many
Do
words.
you want to take the easy way out in life? No. Multiplicity of 2.
So if we put just 1, it'll be wrong?
You'll put it and find out. And then I have 2 more, but I cannot see them. So that means that I have 2 imaginary ones. Woo! 2 imaginary, because I can't see the other 2. Where do they go? They're not there. They're in outer space.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do synthetic division 3 times.
Oh.
So let's start.
My. Yay.
What would the numbers be going across?
2, 1, 1. Or negative.
1. Nope. 1 and then 0, because there's no x to the 4th.
Oh.
1, 2, negative 12, 8. See, it's like so satisfying when it works.
I love it.
Okay, now I'm going to do it again. Going to use 1.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. For sure. You good, Riley?
Mhm.
Wait. When I used to go back and watch the videos,
Then
I'd
I'm-
hear Riley's
Oh, I wrote
laugh
negative.
every single
I
time.
wrote negative.
Then I'm going to do it again with 1 again.
Alright, so I'm not ready.
I think I need to write more.
You write so
How did I get to 0? Claire, what the heck? Are you going to the first one? That's sad. Yeah, I hear that every time.
Like if my degree is x to the 5th, that means I have to do it 3 times to get to an x squared. So you have to do it as many times to get to an x squared.
4. You can't factor this.
You can't. I would write this as x squared plus 4 equals 0. That's what this is right here. But I don't need to factor it because I can just move the 4 over and then square root.
Oh. Yep.
So x squared equals negative 4. Here they come.
Oh. What?
X equals plus or minus 2i.
Oh.
Eyes make a
no.
reappearance.
Here are the i's. So my final answer would be x equals negative 2, 1 with a multiplicity of 2, and plus or minus 2i. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 roots.
So, is your coefficient in front of the I, is it always going to be however many imaginary solutions you have left?
What do you mean?
That makes sense. Okay, so it's like plus or negative 2.
Yeah, so you'll always have 2. You would only have 2 imaginary roots.
Okay, so it would either be plus or minus I or plus or minus 2I.
Yep. So you get x equals 0.66667, something like that.
My.
We don't allow that
That is a decimal, but is it also a fraction?
Yes.
It is, right?
But
2/3, and it was a negative. It was a negative, sorry. So x equals negative 2/3. And did you know that you can do synthetic division on fractions?
No, I didn't.
But you can. You can do it. So
Sounds like an infomercial.
I've been wondering for so long.
I know you have.
So satisfied that I know that.
I know. Okay, so I'm going to write these across. It's going to be 3, negative 4, 8, and 8.
But you said we don't get our calculator.
But you don't need your calculator for this.
I know, but what if we
Oh,
have it?
I would provide the graph for you,
Yeah.
and you would look at it.
I know, but what if you have to do it with a fraction?
Well,
I wouldn't do that.
just have to figure it out myself.
Okay,
No calculators used.
so you have, bring the 3 down, negative 2.
Wait, how do you do that? How do you do that?
Do what?
Just do like multiply.
3 over 1 times. Use your
2 over 3
calculator.
times
You do not need your calculator for this. I'm going to start crying. No, if you cannot do this.
Then we're stupid. Yeah. You just go
You can do this. Yes, you do.
You just
You go straight across.
Negative 6 over 3.
So you do like
That's
negative 6
negative
over
2.
3.
Yeah, and that's negative 2.
Right.
You always do it that way.
So then if I I always take this number right here. I take this number over the denominator, which is negative 2, and then I multiply by this.
Would you send Kylie to the front, please? She's leaving.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, again, all school worship
I
my
could
seed.
go with you. That's negative 4 over 3. What?
Sally.
You have to do 8 minus a negative 4.
Oh, it's a plus 4, and then you get 12. My bad, my bad.
Oh, it's supposed to be a negative 1.
Yeah, yeah.
See?
Then you get negative 2 times 4, which is negative 8, and then that gets you 0. So you were good. So I write this as 3x squared minus 6x plus 12.
You can take out a 3.
Oh, you can take out a 3. GCF it.
It's a fraction. You
Hey,
missed
can
it.
you pull out STEM today? 'Cause I just learned another one.
Do what?
Wait, 3 and 6. 3 is not.
What?
12 divided by 3 is 6.
No, it's not. It's 4.
Yeah.
Can you factor this?
No, I don't know. I don't think so.
You can't. You can't do it. But you know what you can do, Claire?
No.
The quadratic formula.
Boy.
But I'm going to divide by 3 first and just get x squared minus 2x plus 4 equals 0. So I'm going to do the quadratic formula on this guy.
Yeah. Love math.
I know you do. So x is equal to negative b, so 2, plus or minus square root.
It's going to be an imaginary.
It is
I love it.
b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So then 2 plus or minus 4 minus 16 is negative 12. If I were to simplify this first, obviously I pull out the negative, and then can I pull out any perfect squares? 4. So that leaves me with 2i square root of 3. So I took out an I, and then this is 4 times 3, so I pull that out, bring it out front to be a 2. Okay. Do what?
I still don't understand how you do that. Plus 2i square root 3 over 2 can simplify it.
Yeah, we're going to simplify it again.
Square root of 3, just I squared.
So I have 2 plus or minus 2i root 3 over 2. Then you put the 2 under this, and that becomes a 1.
Upper school, at this time, we're dismissing everyone to head over to the sanctuary of the church for all school worship.
Let me finish this
Please
one real quick.
leave your backpacks in your fifth.
The 2 over 2 becomes 1, so 1 plus or minus I root 3. So my answer would be x equals negative 2/3, 1 plus or minus I root 3.